Thank you for joining, whether you are live right now or on the replay. My name is Heather, and I have a parent group on Facebook, Authentic Parents Unite. And I also help people with their mindset. So I enjoy coaching. I do a lot of work with kids as well, some volunteer work for Girls Inc. Um, And I've put together recently a master class. This is my second time running it. And I had quite a few people join the first round. And I am happy to have anyone who wants to check it out. I'm going to try to run this every month. So we will get started. On this first slide here, I just wanted to go over a couple things. So what we're going to do today is talk about calm, connected leadership, focusing on family leadership, but really all of this can be applied to any leadership situation or dynamic. So we're going to discover how to lead confidently with love, even if you feel guilt from past mistakes. And that phrase is directed towards family. However, everyone makes mistakes. We're all human. So if you lead in a corporate environment too, you can use most of this in that setting as well. So if you are ready for some value today, please type yes in the chat. And I'll give you a minute. You might get a screen that asks about recording or AI permission just to get notes. Thank you. Just some meeting notes. It kind of wraps up the meeting notes and sends that to me in an email. It's my words. Everyone else should be on mute. If you do want to ask any questions, type those into the chat. Okay, thanks, Rick. And if you want to participate in the exercises, you can have some pen and paper ready. And I think that's all I wanted to cover for the intro. So thank you guys so much for coming. Let's go over to the next slide here. I'm going to use my slides and then a few notes as well. And that will just help me keep track of what step we're on. So what I wanted to share with you today, it's going to be 3 main steps that can guide you along the path of discovering how to lead your family or your group confidently. Okay, so what I have here is like a formula or method, a 3-step method. I like to call it the guideposts of the peaceful parent or peaceful leader. So what is a guidepost? It kind of self-explanatory in the name, I guess. So a post usually mounted on the roadside or at the intersection of 2 or more roads, bearing a sign for the guidance of travelers. So these 3 steps you can use as guideposts in leadership, and we're going to get to those. You can use them to nurture trust with, like I said, family, friends, coworkers, community. And I put a big $sign right here on this, and that is because I wanted you guys to know that what I'm going to teach you today, these steps transformed my life so much. I knew that I couldn't keep them to myself. I had very, very strong convictions that as I was learning how to kind of transform myself and my own family and the leadership dynamic going on there, and don't get me wrong, it's not perfect. It's never going to be perfect. It's always a work in progress. But I had a huge transformation in my life, which I am going to get into pretty soon here. But as I was learning and discovering some of these awesome things, some awesome new habits and knowledge, I felt like it was my job to share it. So I did something a little crazy. I left my full-time job in January of 24, and I decided to invest all of my time, a lot of my 401k, just in supporting my family as I educated myself and cultivated this program, incubated some ideas, just got with the right people. So at this point, I've spent over $100,000 on getting this to a point where I can share it with other people, and I feel very confident that I can help others to know the steps to take to transform their own dynamic, whether that be corporate, family, community leading, whatever you need it for. A lot of this, I'll give you a little hint, a peek into what we're going to talk about. A lot of it is going to be leading by example. So controlling ourselves and embodying all of the values that we kind of hold ourselves accountable to. And it's really hard to hold yourself accountable. So sometimes we need to ask other people to help us do that. And that's part of why I'm doing this as well. I want all of you to hold me accountable. And I love to share this knowledge with others. So I did want you all to know that, it was very scary when I first started this venture, this journey, but I knew that it was what I was supposed to be doing, that it was my calling. So I'm super excited to share all this with you guys. Does everyone here have a relationship that is meaningful to them? Some in your life? If you want to type yes in the chat, everyone must have at least one relationship in their life that's meaningful. All of these concepts that we're going to be discussing are they're just, you can use them in any relationship. It's just going to help you have stronger bonds, stronger connections, and it's going to help you be more peaceful. So I'm super excited to share these. Let me get to the next slide. I have some instant takeaways for attending today, some bonuses. At the end of the class, thank you for the yes. At the end of the class, I'm going to be giving you two things. You have to listen to the code word for the code word. So we're going to have the Zen Parent Handbook. So that is daily habits for calm, control, and connection. So what it is a practical step-by-step guide for parents or any leaders who want to stay calm, connected, and in control throughout the day. The playbook offers daily habits, time management strategies, and quick mental resets. I'll give you a hint on the mental resets. I almost said recess. Recess could be one of them, though. Sometimes it's like really helpful to get outside for a couple minutes. I actually just started scheduling recess into my own days, my own work days. That's a side note. But a little hint on the mental resets. They are little sensory reps that you can do. Quick little breath work tricks, little sensory, like rubbing the tips of your fingers together, tuning into sounds around you, brings you back into the moment. It's full of little hints like that. So these are designed specifically for busy parents or leaders who crave peace without losing a connection. So this handbook includes my 7 top daily habits, time management blueprint to help prioritize tasks, and a 30-day printable tracker. And then the other piece that I'm going to give you for attending today is something called the Repair Roadmap from Conflict to Connection. So if you are a leader, which I think everyone that's listening is, I'm going to make that assumption. I don't usually make too many assumptions, but I'm going to make that one. I am guessing that at some point there has been a rupture, and possibly some of that could have fallen on you, or in my case, me. So this is going to teach you how to repair a rupture in a relationship. Because when we're leaders, I think it's important to allow a certain amount of vulnerability to be seen within reason. And we can lead by example and show others how to fix something if there was a mistake or a rupture. I think that's really important, and it's going to earn you a lot of respect. So this roadmap, it's a workbook providing you with clear, compassionate process to repair emotional ruptures, after conflicts with children, partners, with yourself, coworkers. It emphasizes self-reflection, open communication, intentional reconnection. So it's going to include conversation prompts and exercises, mindset strategies, a printable log, along with bonus reset ritual ideas. So the methods that I share in the workbook are borrowed wisdom from one of my favorites, Dr. Becky Kennedy. She is a family therapist, and she's also kind of a modern day Stoic philosopher, which she uses a lot of that in her parenting, which I am a big fan of Stoicism, and I use that. We're going to look at a couple of the exercises that we're going to do today are borrowed from Stoic philosophy. So anyway, Dr. Becky Kennedy, she's an author, public speaker. She has a beautiful TED Talk on how to repair in a relationship. I highly recommend it. She has a book called Good Inside, and it is basically teaches you how to separate good people from bad behavior. And she claims in the book that we're all good inside. It's just that sometimes we have bad behaviors. So one of her famous phrases is, two things are true. That was a bad behavior and you are good inside. So it's just like one of her methods of parenting or leading her family. That is specific to children. Obviously, you're not going to say that to like a coworker or something. So, but she charges a lot of money for her sessions at this point because she's in high demand and kind of famous. So we're borrowing some wisdom from her in this repair roadmap. She's amazing. I use her wisdom a lot. So if you want the freebies today, listen up for the code word at the end of the class. And then you just have to message me the code word and I will send you the Zen Parent Handbook and the Repair Roadmap. So if you want the freebies and you're going to listen for the code word at the end, please type me in the chat or something similar, or say hi, or put fire in the chat, whatever you feel like doing. So while you do that, I'm going to skip to the next slide, which is, all right, I got a fire. I'm feeling warm and cozy. Thank you. All right, I'm skipping to the next slide, which is about my story. And I put this together specifically for this class. I knew that I needed to put my story together for my website, for my parenting group. A lot of people were just asking me like, what's your experience? And why are you doing this? What's driving you to do this? What's your motivation? And I could talk for weeks about knowing your why and actually knowing your why not. Why are you choosing to do something? Why are you not doing it right now? Why not? Your why is like the magnet that pulls you towards your goals. So you have to have a strong why. And if you're not taking action towards your goals, you need to know why you're not doing that. So there's two sides to this knowing your why. Again, that's something I could geek out over with you all for a long time, a week. Could do a class every day on that. But for right now, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story, if that's okay. And I chose to kind of bring you in around the 2020 time period, which everyone knows the 2020 time period because that's when COVID started to come out in the United States and almost everywhere else. It was just worldwide. As we all know, I'm not telling you anything you don't know. So let me just get caught up here. Before I get into the story, I'm just using my notes a little bit too, because I don't want to miss anything important. I just want to share part of my desire to share my story with you is that I think as parents and leaders, we do all struggle with the inner voices that try to tell us that we're always going to be impatient, that we're always going to feel stuck. It's part of life. Um, that we've already tried everything and nothing works, and the kids just won't listen, or it's too late to repair, or I don't have time to implement new practices or learn new habits. But part of me sharing my story with you is that I want to help you to challenge those limiting beliefs and those voices that we hear that keep us stuck and keep us like sometimes depressed or anxious. So here is the part of my life where I started to discover how important it would be to conquer some of my own inner demons that were lying to me about my potential. And I'm gonna kind of show you a time that was really possibly my lowest point. And then I'm gonna kind of, you could see the categories here, like the sink or swim, Hell Island, sink or swim, and then Dream Island. So I try to make it kind of fun and like a little bit of a storyline that we're following here. So I'll use my notes, but just you know, if you're at work and trying to pluck away at work, you can do that. If you are able to kind of think about my story and think about maybe what similar struggles you've been through too, that might be helpful too, just to see how like, you feel stuck in this place sometimes, but there's always a way out. Sometimes you just have to figure it out through a lot of trial and error. So imagine for a moment that you're on an island where every day feels like a struggle, where everything that once felt stable has crumbled beneath you. For me, the island was 2020. I had just started a new chapter in a new home with my 3 little ones, full of hope and promise. But almost immediately, life had other plans. In the winter of 2020, while the world was grappling with COVID, I was hit with my own storm of brand new cancer diagnosis. That summer, hospitals opened back up. I walked into surgery expecting a routine thyroidectomy, but when I awoke, something was profoundly off. So I'm kind of reading this to you guys, but also at the end of 2019, I had just bought this house that I'm in now. It was me and my 3 kids. I had been through some relationship struggles and I was just starting over, me and the kids. Um, it was just kind of a new beginning for me. I had a lot of hope. I'm generally a very positive person. So this finding out that with some biopsies and ultrasounds and cancer diagnosis and then COVID blowing up, having to kind of homeschool some of my kids. I have 3 kids. So at the time they were, I think I wrote it in here, they're like 3, 5, and 7 or something. Yeah. Anyway, it was just a crazy time of life. So then I was told I have cancer, I have to wait for surgery. I go in for my surgery feeling pretty positive, and I woke up and I knew something was wrong. Like I couldn't speak. I couldn't swallow. I couldn't like everything felt so weird, and I knew I had just had surgery. But also, I had a couple other aunts that had the same surgery. I have thyroid cancer in my family, on both sides actually. So if you're gonna get cancer, it's not a terrible one to have from what I hear. So that's on the positive side. But come to find out, well, okay, I'll get back to the story here. But when I woke, something was off. I couldn't speak. I struggled to breathe, swallow my voice. The very essence of my connection to my children and my world was missing. Awful. I felt isolated, scared. The kids and I came up with these signals to communicate. I would clap 3 times really loud for the kids and they would all come over to me. It meant that I had to say something and all I could do was whisper. So um, it was it was terrible. I just felt like we were bonding in some ways, compensating for what happened, but it was so scary, and no one could tell me what happened. I couldn't function at work. I was on the phone all the time and I just couldn't carry out my job duties. So, it was my hell island. The doctors had told me it's just irritation. It was a bruised nerve. I went through speech therapy. They gave me steroids, like tried all these things. Nothing worked. I finally found an ear, nose, and throat doctor that was able to hook me up. So I'll get to that. Um, so I knew something wasn't right. I was battling not only a physical loss, but also an emotional isolation. I felt powerless as my career, independence, and my ability to connect with my children slipped away. I also got extremely reclusive. I avoided any kind of social interaction because I couldn't speak and I didn't have a way of telling people why I couldn't speak. I think I went to one party during that phase. It was like over 3 months of not being able to talk, but I went to one party and I ran into a lot of people that I knew. And so I wrote notes on my phone and showed them to people. Where is the bathroom? It was at like a big bar kind of over for a sibling's birthday at the beach at Hampton Beach. I'm on the East Coast over here. So I had some notes written out on my phone, and one of them was just like, I had surgery and got a vocal cord injury. I can't talk. And it was like, yeah, anytime I ordered something, like I had this breakfast place that I love to go to. It was like a little cafe. So I had my notes written out for, this is like so weird thinking about all this. My notes written out for the person taking my order, like I'll have a jalapeno bagel and hot coffee, blah, blah, blah. It's all on my phone. So in this dark space, I held limiting beliefs that echoed in my mind. I'm broken. I'm not enough. I'm destined to be lost in this chaos. My speech therapist was literally showing me these like voice amplifier boxes that I could wear around my neck. And I was like, is this my new life? Is this my new life? So I don't know if any of you have ever been through dark times. I'm sure you have. Rick, I know that you have. And so I'm sharing this because I want you guys to know, like, you're not alone at your darkest moments. I feel like that is where it can only go uphill. So hang on. If you're in that dark space, just keep holding on. So Christmas night of 2020, the very end of 2020, I just had like my darkest moments. And my kids were away with their dad. I hit rock bottom. I was just like totally convinced that I was stuck on Hell Island with no escape. I was like spiraling mentally. I didn't know how to pull myself out. For me, that was kind of the turning point, though. So moving on to like the sink or swim phase. So even on Hell Island, a spark of hope can flicker. Early 2021, I did reach a crossroads. I made a decision that was somewhat terrifying, more for my doctor than for me, but I stopped taking medications that had numbed my pain, even though the doctor warned me otherwise. I realized that while they dulled the pain or the hurt, they also blocked the path to true healing. And that is why I wrote on this slide in the middle that I sat with the pain and I started to emerge. So I'm not going to recommend that other people should stop taking their medication, but for me, I think I was on an antidepressant and an anti-anxiety medication that had been introduced while I couldn't speak, while my voice problem was there, which is still there. However, I have a temporary surgery that's was only supposed to last 6 months. It has lasted almost 5 years now. and has allowed me the ability to speak again, which is amazing. I will never take that for granted. You ever hear the sound of your own voice coming back at you on a recording or something, and it's like horrifying, like you hate the sound of your own voice? Just know that that was me before too, but I appreciate my voice. I don't care how it sounds because I can speak and I have something to say, and I am grateful for the opportunity to be able to say it. And so thank you for watching and listening. So what I was saying, like, I don't want to say like stop your medication if you're on medication, because some people really do need that. But for me, I just had this conviction that I needed to let all of that go and feel my pain and work through it. So thank you for the heart. And that was it was emotional. I worked through all the emotions and tried not to judge myself. It was overwhelming at times. It was my first step, though, to reclaim my voice in my life. And I began to observe from a different place my own limiting beliefs and my thought patterns. Like I'm broken beyond repair. It was just a belief that I had. It wasn't a fact. So that summer of 2021, I took a few months off. I actually ended up kind of getting replaced at the job that I had, and it was kind of getting phased out. So I had a little bit of time where I was in between jobs. And I bought an RV, something I'd always wanted to do. I taught myself how to RV. I bought a camper, and me and my 3 kids packed up and took a trip down the East Coast. We were gone for like 3 weeks. We visited some friends and family up and down the East Coast. It was amazing. So it was a leap of faith, but it was just like that feeling of hitting the open road when you've been trapped for a long time. And so for me, it wasn't just about the travel. It was like about rediscovering freedom, connection, and starting a new narrative too. So there were some tough moments during that trip, taking 3 little kids on an RV trip, having never done anything like that before, especially through like New York and Connecticut, ending up on some highways that I wasn't supposed to be towing on. That was fun, but we all made it out alive. And it was a great experience. So um I started to see that I wasn't defined by my pain, but rather my ability to overcome it. So maybe you guys have at some point like taken a calculated risk, something you knew you had to do, maybe something on your bucket list or just something a little bit more risky than what you would normally do. Because you just like obsess about it. And that was me with my RV. So, which I still have. I rented it out last summer, made some money on it. That was good. So, during this journey, I learned something crucial, that transformation doesn't happen overnight. It happens one step at a time. So, as I began to heal and embrace a new perspective, a mindset that allowed me to see my suffering as a teacher rather than a trap, I started to see that by changing how I perceived my past, I could change the trajectory of my future, which is really cool. When you start to shift your perception, it not only changes your current life, like your present life, it starts to change the story that you've told yourself throughout your lifetime, which I never expected. As I kind of started discovering things that helped me in real time in my day to day, I then realized that I was rewriting my story, my past, kind of. And it's true, you can't go back in time, you can't change the past, but you can absolutely change how you look at your past. And that it can be very emotional and very healing. But I'll get to that in a minute. So, one of the things that happened as the shifts were taking place like early 2022, my house flooded and a pipe upstairs had broken. It wasn't like insulated properly or something. So my house was in disarray for half my house was in disarray for a few months. But I started like, as I came into these different challenges, I started to look for a gift or like look for something good in the challenge. And so I wanted to encourage you to do that. It does take some practice, but I'm willing to bet that almost every terrible, awful, disgusting thing that's happened in your life, I bet if you really wanted to, you could pull at least some positive things out of that, whether it be a lesson, the ability to empathize with other people, um, just a learning experience. Maybe it opened a door that you had no idea would be there, but you had to go through this horrible loss in order to find, this gift that had been waiting for you. So it's really neat once you start applying that and looking for that. Like what you seek is what you'll find. And if you look for gifts in suffering, you'll find them. I promise. So I just wanted to encourage you with that. As I was going through this journey of like transformation and changing my perceptions, I really immersed myself in learning, like exploring positive psychology, neuroscience. I'm a big neuroscience dork. Wisdom of people like Alan Watts, Eckhart Tolle, some Stoic teachings of Marcus Aurelius. I discovered that true transformation comes from shifting our internal dialogue. When you change your perceptions, you change your life. So I started to notice subtle yet powerful shifts in my day-to-day, connecting with my children on a deeper level, feeling more calm, more present, and connected. So I witnessed relationships, including my own with myself, starting to mend. I replaced self-doubt with confidence, regret with compassion, and fear with love. So imagine moving from this suffocating hell island to a vibrant dream island, a place where you feel empowered, where you lead your family with calm and connection, and where every challenge is an opportunity for growth. That's the island I now call home. And I want you to know that I am not perfect by any means with this. It's an ongoing challenge to myself to keep working towards this. Every day has new challenges, new moods with my children who are now 8, almost 10, and almost 12. And they're all fun ages. It's just, every day you can't predict what's going to happen. You make plans and then things come up and like maybe two kids will be in a good mood, but one's having a horrible time. And then it's just like, okay, I think I've learned to recognize that when those things are happening, when the kids are having a hard time, they're not giving me a hard time. It's that they're having a hard time. And so it's our job as leaders to help them through that time. Sometimes they might just need to separate themselves from society or their family until they can maybe calm down. Like they have to work through some anger or emotions. And it's okay to say, hey, maybe you just sit over here for a little bit, calm yourself down, take some deep breaths, read a book, listen to a song. Let me know if you need something. um, so it is not perfect at all in my home, but I do live on Dream Island. It's something I strive for every day. And my kids they're learning with me and they're learning how to handle tough situations. Like they are learning that they're very capable of handling tough situations, whether it's a hard conversation they have to have with a friend or sticking up for themselves if there's a bully. They know the steps to follow to kind of guide their own lives in the direction that they want. And I think that's really valuable. Um, so we talked about like the Hell Island Dream Island. Um, so as I started to kind of rewrite my past experiences, even the painful ones, I was realizing that those experiences, the suffering, were preparing me for something greater, just giving me like insight and empathy for guiding others. And so that's why I'm here today, basically to share my journey. So you guys can chart your own course towards a more connected, fulfilled family and leadership life. Um, so during the summer of 2024, I offered my program to the director of a local organization that helps local teens cultivate strong, smart, and bold mindset, which you might recognize that motto. So they invited me to work with a group of young ladies that were meeting at a local college as part of the Girls Inc. Young Women's Leadership Program. So this was kind of like a turning point for me where I needed some validation of what I was creating for other people. And so I offered my program to this Girls Inc. group, Young Women's Leadership Group. It's girls of basically middle school and high school age. And the leadership program directors gave me a little bit of feedback at the end of our time together, but we all met at a local college several times last summer. So Casey, one of the program coordinator for Young Women's Leadership, said Heather was well versed in body and mind practices that allowed our children to learn and build skills they wouldn't otherwise. The work that Heather did with Young Women's Leadership allowed for a diverse population of experiences to thrive in the given setting. And Karen, Director of Programming and Athletics for Girls Inc., she said Heather was creative and was always prepared. We appreciate the opportunity to work with her and the work she put into modifying the concepts for our group. That's another thing, like the concepts that I teach about can be modified for different age groups. She said, our girls enjoy the diverse range of activities, which keeps the experience fresh and exciting. The opportunity to discuss experiences and insights in a group setting was a highlight for many, fostering a sense of they are not alone. So the feedback was really helpful for me, allowing me to understand the impact of what I was doing, and the result was a desire to serve more people. And not only had I begun rewriting my own story, I was figuring out how to help other people rewrite theirs. So that is what I want to share as far as my story. So I have a little engagement exercise for you. So we talked a little bit about the Hell Island and the Dream Island. So I thought that it would be kind of neat for you guys to take a few minutes. Also, taking a few minutes to do exercises for me is very helpful to give my voice a break as I teach some of these concepts. So we're going to hop into the 3 steps after we do this, but take a few minutes and you can list all of the emotions that you feel on your own Hell Island. Maybe it's stuck, alone, afraid, unworthy, sad. I just put some prompts there to give you an idea. And then you can list all of the emotions you would feel on your dream island. Again, some examples: freedom, belonging, courage, courageous, valuable, joyful. And then to recognize what kind of gap is there between the 2 islands. So I'm going to take 5 minutes here real quick and let you work on that. And I'll be back in just a moment. All right. And I'll see you soon. Okay, I'm back. How did everybody do on that? Hopefully that was helpful for you. And so in the masterclass, we're going to explore different tools and strategies that helped me bridge that gap between like the hell and dream island. And so we'll talk about transforming limiting beliefs, cultivating presence, leading with calm and connection, even when life throws unexpected challenges at us. So who wants to hear the steps that you came here for today? We're going to start with the first step in just a moment here. So let me go to the next slide so I can share this wonderful wisdom with all of you. We are going to talk about step one, the guidepost of a peaceful leader. So family leadership, whatever it may be. So the first thing you want to do is to make friends with curiosity. And I like to use the term curiosity. I could use also awareness, self-awareness, acknowledgement, asking questions. But I like the term curiosity because it's playful. It's not intimidating. But one of the first things that we have to do is be willing to realize or look at what might be holding you back. So the first part of curiosity is just kind of acknowledging or being aware of the limiting beliefs. Those are the voices that tell us these little negative things that hold us back. So some of those voices in the beginning might tell you, I can't change. That's like, I'm too set in my ways, or you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Well, thanks to neuroscience, you can teach an old dog new tricks. We have neuroplasticity, which tells us that if we start implementing new habits, we can train our brains to keep up with those new habits. And I think that's a wonderful way. It does take time. It doesn't happen overnight, but we can slowly start to introduce new practices into our lives. And through repetition, which I just gave away the next step, we can change the patterns in our brains. So another limiting belief you might have is like, I always lose my temper. I'm not calm. Calmness doesn't run in my family. Another one, nobody listens to me. I am guilty of saying that one sometimes. And then it's like, okay, well, maybe I just need to adjust my strategy slightly. You might think that you're just not calm. You're not a calm person. So be aware of the voices and start talking back to them from a place of curiosity. So curiosity carries a little bit of a playful vibe to it, like a childlike curiosity. It's coming from a little bit of a place of innocence. So this is important in order to use compassion with yourself. When you're curious about something, it's from like a genuine, innocent place of wanting to know. You're just curious. I'm just curious why I keep hearing these negative voices in me. Maybe it's because all of my life I believed that they were true, but they don't have to be true. So the next thing, which I kind of hinted to within curiosity, is treating yourself well. So go easy on yourself. You're learning. Remember to use compassion on yourself. If you can't be nice to yourself, you will hold others to the same rigid standards. I don't know about you, but I know that that's true. When I'm being super strict with myself, I am not able to extend grace to other people as much as I would like to. I may sometimes lie to myself and say, being strict with myself, but I can still give grace to other people. And that might be true to a point, but also, if you are being too hard on yourself or you haven't found that balance, it's going to be nearly impossible for you to use that balance with others. So just be aware of that. Go easy on yourself. A wise man, it's my brother Isaac, once told me that everyone's capacity is different, so keep that in mind as you learn. So I used to manage the family business, which was approximately 100 employees or so. And at this time in my life, I was getting 3 little babies ready for daycare, getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning. We often didn't feel well, hadn't slept the night before. It was very rare that everything was perfect and everyone was feeling good and everyone had a full night of sleep. And I used to manage this company, and I just was in very robotic, mechanical game face mode. Like, I just had to get it done. There was no other option. I had to do it. And people would sometimes call in and say, like, oh, my neighbor's dog died. I've been crying all night. I can't come in. Or, and I'm not making light of that, but also I had like absolutely no compassion, zero, like I had no sympathy. Um, sometimes one of the office employees or drivers would call in sick and say, like, my throat hurts. And this was like prior to COVID. So I feel like before then, you just came to work. Like, you're a little bit sick, but you just still came to work. After COVID, it's different. But um, so I worked with a few of my brothers. One of my brothers had called in sick one time when I was out for something or other. I think I was out maybe on a trip. But he said, oh, I had to call in sick, and it was really different talking to Sherry versus talking to you. And he said she actually showed me some compassion when I told her I didn't feel good. And I was like, oh, sorry. Yeah, I have a hard time when people call in sick. It's more work for me, right? So he said to me, and this brother was he's 16 years younger than me. I was 16 when he was born, but he said to me, Heather, everyone's capacity is different. And that really stuck with me because he's a wise, wise person and like very gentle-hearted. And it stuck with me. And so I always remind myself, like, I have to treat myself well. I don't have to be a robot. But I have to remember too that everyone's capacity is different. So when you're leading others and you're going for like calm, connected relationships, building trust and bonds, it's like every coworker is different. Every child is different. Everyone has different love languages. Everyone has different styles of communication. Everyone's capacity is different. So there you go. That's a little hint from my brother Isaac. So I love this next one. Control. What can you control? If you can't control something, you have to accept it. In Stoic philosophy, there's something called the dichotomy of control, and that teaches us to separate everything into 2 categories, what you can control and what you cannot control. And this is one of the exercises that we'll do. So if you can't control something, you have to accept it. That doesn't mean you like it, but you have to accept it to a point. Then your energy can be focused on what you can control, which often is just our own selves. So we'll get into that in a little bit. So then it's your choice. Put your focus where it matters. So curious awareness will help you to find your triggers. Then you own them. And transformation is about ownership. And that gets uncomfortable. I promise it does, but I promise you're not ever going to grow if you don't get uncomfortable first. So nobody else makes you do anything. Like, if you ever listening to kids, it's hilarious. Like, he made me do it, or she made me do this, or I only did this because they did this to me. And it's like, okay, but you control your own behavior and action. Like, they didn't make you do that. You chose to react that way. So this is a great learning opportunity. So you are in charge of you, and people follow your example. When you lead from a place of ownership, people are going to see, like, oh, my mom knows how to own her own behaviors, or my boss always takes responsibility if it's their error, or, they will come back and repair a situation if there was a rupture, that kind of thing. So We're going to do a little exercise here. Let me just take a peek on what's on the next. Okay, 2 exercises. First, we're going to do a quick thought dump, which is just you're going to list your limiting beliefs and then get curious about whether these become self-fulfilling prophecies, and then you can reframe them. So this basically, some coaches call it like a thought dump. So you're going to look at this first category on this slide, the limiting beliefs that hold you back. So what are some of those voices in your head when you're thinking about where you are right now and the gap between where you are now and where you would like to be, ideally, in your life? What are some of those limiting beliefs? Like maybe you want a nicer home, or you want to live in a different area, you want a better school system for your children, or you want a dream job that you've never gone after. Think about the voices. What are they saying to you? Like, no one in your family has ever gotten out of poverty, or everyone in your family yells, or you've never had a boss that treated you fairly. Like, a lot of these voices are sort of victim identities, and they don't have to be your identity. Your identity, who you are, is the person that is observing these voices and these beliefs. So that gives you the ability to recognize them. You still hear the voices, but then you can start talking back to them. It's like you're hovering over these beliefs so you can see them, you're identifying them, and you're talking back to them. Point your finger at them. So get curious about like the thoughts, the negative thoughts that you think that are keeping you stuck, and whether you believe in them so deeply that they become self-fulfilling prophecies. Like maybe you never go for that job that you really actually want because you don't think that you deserve it, or no one in your family's ever had a job like that before. Like, um, I have to do this constantly, but just reframe those thoughts, observe the thoughts, talk back to them, reframe them. It takes a lot of courage to do this. So that's, just talking as we go through the exercise. You can spend a little more time on that too, if you'd like. Maybe something you can do before bed at night, or, whenever something's bothering you too, you can just stop for 1 minute, write down the thought that's bothering you. Sometimes just getting it out on paper is helpful for processing and working through it. And then you can talk back to it and say, that's not true. I recognize you as a limiting belief, but you're not going to become a self-fulfilled prophecy. Like, it doesn't have to be that way. So we'll go to the next page, because I love this dichotomy of control. This is one of my very favorite concepts in Stoic philosophy. This is taking really any difficult situation in life. What do you have control over? What don't you have control over? For me, this was like when I had the flood in my house. Well, I was gone when it happened. I walked into my house and it was already flooded. So what do I have control over at this point? Well, I can take a deep breath and go down in the basement and figure out if I can shut off some valves safely without getting electrocuted. I can take a moment and call my insurance company. That would be good. I can, call my plumber, see if he can come over and stop the leak maybe. It's freaking out is within your control. You can choose to not freak out, and your brain is going to work a lot more effectively and efficiently than if you are expending all of your energy and your focus on losing your shit. That doesn't usually help. So sometimes, though, it is an initial reaction, and maybe in some very extreme circumstances, it could be appropriate for a moment. You have your reaction, you take a breath, you go, okay, now what? But yeah, so this exercise is cool. So think about a recent parenting or management conflict. Separate it into the two lists. It could even be like a neutral circumstance, like my house flood that I just shared with you. So what was in your control? What was outside of your control? Once you do that, underline where you put your energy. You can share in the chat if you want to, but you do not have to. So I'll give you a couple minutes to do that, and I'll be right back. Hmm. Hey, how did everybody do? Hopefully you guys had enough time to do that. Something you could come back to later if you want to. So we will go on to the next slide here. I'm just going to see where I'm at. Make sure I'm keeping up on my other notes here. I love this dichotomy of control. So helpful. It's been super helpful for me. So next. Okay, so now that you know how to be aware of your limiting beliefs, like observing and getting curious about them, recognizing triggers and where to focus your energy, you realize that transformation is possible, that being a calm and connected leader is possible. But maybe you're feeling a little bit uneasy about some of this, having some uncertainty and some doubt. I felt that way too. That's why you need the next step on my method. So guidepost number 2 is commitment. And I did hint towards that earlier. So staying the course through the discomfort. This is where most people quit. So I think when you're starting out some transformation or like adopting a new way of life, new habits, it's exciting at first and you're all gung-ho about it. And then it's like getting a little uncomfortable and maybe I'll just quit. So, but you don't want to quit. So that's why we're going to address some of the limiting beliefs at step 2. All right, so this is once you start to kind of adopt the new habits and you're taking all of the necessary steps and practices, and you might start to feel like this is too hard, or I don't have time, or you tried it for a couple days and it didn't work for you. You might have to give it more than a couple days. My partner isn't supporting me. That's shifting blame. I'm too busy to work on myself. I can almost guarantee you nothing else is more important. Other people won't see a difference. I never finish what I start. It's who I am. I'm a yeller. Well, so those are just some common limiting beliefs or those voices, and sometimes they become self-fulfilling prophecies. I try to teach this to my kids. I'm like, don't say you can't do it. Say you haven't learned how yet or something. Like just say it, reframe it some way. So this step at commitment, it's all about commitment. Staying the course when it's tough, learning to push through the discomfort. So we're going to talk about using some sensory reps to pull you back into the moment. Also learning about creating space. I love to talk about space. I love to teach people how to use space and create space. This can be so, so, so powerful. So Viktor Frankl, he is a Holocaust survivor. He also is the founder of logotherapy, which is he was a psychotherapist. So it is a method that he came up with that gave people meaning to survive in the concentration camps. It put meaning to their suffering. He was able to teach people while he was going through his own suffering and losing his own family in the concentration camps. He was able to teach people to focus on something on the other side of their suffering. Like, what is it in your life that is calling you? What is life asking of you? What is your purpose outside of this suffering? And so I have this beautiful book that he wrote. It's called Man's Search for Meaning. And it's wonderful. But one of the quotes in there is so powerful. I wanted to incorporate it today under the category of commitment. So he says, between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. So that just means when we have something that triggers us, our initial response is to react to it. And usually that's a quick reaction. Some people might call it an impulse reaction. However, between that trigger or stimulus and our response, there's a space. If there isn't one, you can create one. You can make one. You can force yourself to start getting into the habit of putting space there, and it will change your life, I promise you. We're going to do an exercise on that in just a minute. I just want to catch up here on my handheld notes. So the pause and power up exercise in Buddhism, if a lot of people are into like Buddhist teachings, and anyway, they have a very similar concept. I like to research all different kinds of spirituality. I go to church every Sunday with my kids. We go to a Christian church, and that's how I grew up. I took about 30 years off from the church, though. I like to learn about all different philosophies, different forms of psychology, positive psychology. There's so many different angles you can take, but I love to learn about different spiritual practices too. And there's so many connections between many religions and practices. I like to just learn about some of these common themes, but learn about them as they're worded slightly differently in different languages and interpretations and translations. And Buddhists call this space the sacred pause, and it is a sacred pause. So the exercise we're going to do is called pause and power up exercise. Before we do that, though, part of what I've enjoyed kind of intertwining into the masterclass is some testimonials that I've gotten from people who have gone through my program. And one of the people that went through my program last year, his name is Steven, and he gave me some really nice feedback, which I want to read here as we talk about step number 2. But we're going to talk about like a little bit more about reframing mistakes or failures and using them kind of as data and setbacks as part of our growth. So in this phase of commitment, we're emphasizing repetition and highlighting the wins, even if they're small ones. And that can be like as you're practicing to create space between triggers and your response, you're just acknowledge yourself, even if you can only get maybe like a couple seconds in there for space or like for that pause. Just do what you can and just keep trying. Don't get down on yourself. Just keep trying. So I wanted to tell you about the feedback that I got from Steven. So he's a young father that took my group challenge last year. He was experiencing a lot of these changes too, and he stayed the course through some turbulent times. So he told me that the program was unlike anything he'd seen before and described it as thought-provoking, enlightening, stating that it gets you into a healthy state of mind every time. He added that he believes it will be a hit for years, even decades to come. So I wanted to share that with you because I loved how he said gets you into a healthy state of mind every time. And that's what this is all about. It's learning to hover over your thoughts, your beliefs, your programming, learning to hover over it and realize that you are the observer of all those things. They're not your identity. They don't have to be your identity. So that is really important when you're going through this transformation, because you will start to feel a separation from all of these things that you thought defined you, that made you who you are. Once you start to observe all of those things, the thoughts, the negativity, the reactions, the triggers, you'll start to realize that those are not you. They don't have to be you. You can make them you. And a lot of people go through their entire lives making those things them, who they are. But that's not who they are. That's not who you are. You are the observer of those things. And you also can change those beliefs, the programs, the you can change your limit, you can change your ceiling. Your ceiling can become your floor, and you can make your new ceiling, and you can just go higher and higher. Part of that is surrounding yourself with the right people. And that's what I love about coaching, is that, you just, it's like this beautiful dance of like, kind of brainstorming and shooting ideas off of each other. And just the role of a coach is to guide you on finding your own answers. You have your own answers. You just haven't gotten used to digging for them. And that's part of what I love about this. So I wanted to share that Stephen's experience and the transformation that he found in such a short amount of time. So during the challenge, the group challenge that he talks about here, I had given everyone multiple options for exercises or ways to implement new perceptions and concepts into their day-to-day lives. So it's about finding a solution that works for you and staying with it until it's a habit. Okay, so this is my favorite key takeaway, this space, idea of space. And all of the money that I invested in myself over the last couple of years, like I said, it's been over $100,000 at this point. It would honestly be worth it if you could just master this one thing. It is so life-changing. So I'm going to show you how to use this at the step 2 commitment level. So if you have a pen and paper, you want to take, let me just see here which slide I'm on. Okay, no, we're not going to do that one yet. Okay, so let's do this power up exercise. So we already talked about like your reaction, your immediate impulse reaction, which might be like a yelling, punishment, withdrawing of love. Oh, that one hurts. I know that I've done that before, but it was out of like my own inability to process my own emotions in the moment, like taking it personally when my child was having a hard time, which like they're having a hard time. Why am I withdrawing love from them when they need it the most? They have the worst ways of asking for attention sometimes, but it's our job as parents to help them through that time and realize they're not giving us a hard time. It's that they're having a hard time. And so our job as parents, our privilege as parents, is that we are blessed to have the opportunity to guide them through those moments of hardship. That is our job. That is what we're supposed to be doing. We're not supposed to be taking it personally and mirroring or reflecting those tough reactions back at them. Why would we do that? Well, because humans are programmed with a negativity bias. It's that like survival part of our brain, and we're feeling that resistance. That's the word I was looking for. We're feeling resistance from them. And so the natural reaction is to fight back. We have to train those impulses out of us. That's like back in our survival day. We have the survival part of our brain that is it's so like ingrained in us that we have to train it out. And that's why we're in this commitment step, this creating space. We're taking breaths, we're showing our children and our coworkers, our community, we're showing other people how to handle those tough moments. We don't have to react. We can take a minute. We can think. We can use logic. We can use compassion, empathy. So we're going to do this exercise. Think about a recent time when you reacted in a way you regret. Now imagine if you had paused for 5 to 10 seconds before responding. What might you have done differently? So I'll give you a couple of minutes to think about that, and you can do that exercise, and I'll be back in a moment. Okay, how did it go? Did you find anything you might have done differently? You're able to do that exercise. It's something you can come back to if you're maybe plugging away at work and watching this in between. This is something that we can just practice, just keep putting in the reps. I guarantee you're going to have several opportunities to use it throughout the day, whether you're reading a text message that you don't like the looks of or the tone of, whether you are in a situation with traffic that you can't control. The space and the control go together. I hope you're seeing that. We cannot control the behavior that is sometimes known as the stimulus. We can control how much we let it trigger us. So there is the trigger, which is often the behavior of another person or a situation outside of our control. It could even be something neutral like the weather or the news, or I say neutral because it's like, just completely outside of our control. Something someone else says that's just rubbing us the wrong way. So that's where the control and the space work with each other. They're two really powerful concepts that you can practice throughout the day, knowing what you can control, what you can't control. And one of the things you can control is making space between the trigger and the reaction or your response. So a couple of the things that may help you to create that space is some sensory reps. And these are things that might take a little while, like a few reminders before you get good at implementing them. This could be something like you read a text message you don't like. Close your eyes. Take a couple deep breaths. Put your hands together. Rub your hands together. Strong, aggressively if you have to. Like get a little bit of, all right, just get the blood flowing. Breathe. Work through some of those initial feelings. Maybe you go back to the message in a few minutes and try to read it again with an open mind. And maybe you'll see in the text message that there are some insecurities in there. I read one time that everything we encounter is going to be either love or the need for love in communication. And that is a really interesting thing to think about. I think some information that's passed along can just be neutral, but a lot of times when we're feeling triggered, it's because there's a need for love, or love is, there's some insecurities there. And so it's either that the person or us are not loving ourselves or not loving the other. So there's like a love deficit, if you will. That's probably something you'll start to realize a little later in the transformation stage. It's hard to focus on that when you're trying to get a hold of like the control and the space concepts. But another thing you can try for creating space is just close your eyes and listen to the sounds around you, even if it's like the hum of the fan on your laptop, like I can hear right now. Or it's like a really soft kind of ticking sound in my baseboard heater that just went off. I don't know if you heard that. It could be the birds are starting to come out around here as the weather's getting nicer, and I can hear some birds outside my window if I close my eyes. So anything having to do with your senses, it could just be like softly rubbing your fingertips on your desktop. I have, my desk has some like wood grain, and so I can just feel the ridges in the wood and little things like that. I know it sounds silly, but you can pull yourself back into the moment and out of the drama. It's so good just by using your senses for just a few seconds at a time. So give that a try. I have some more tips and tricks that I could share with you that are very helpful, and they do initially sound kind of goofy, but I promise you they work. So if you practice, you're going to get really good at this pause and like the control, knowing where to focus your energy. But you're going to mess up sometimes. Let's celebrate being human. Everyone messes up sometimes, and that is okay. That is also why you're going to need this final step that I'm going to teach you. So your final step of the guideposts of peaceful leadership is right here. It is command. And this doesn't mean you're giving orders in a dictatorship. This is you are commanding yourself. You have command over yourself. You're leading by example. You're embodying the transformation. So in this final phase of transformation as a leader, you have the tools, but you may fear stepping into leadership or doubt that your transformation will last. Again, you're going to have some of those negative limiting beliefs. At this point, it might say, who am I to lead when I still make mistakes? Guess what? Everybody makes mistakes. It's part of being human. This is what I call imposter syndrome. So you don't have to buy into that. You can hover over that, observe it, realize that you are the observer of that belief and that it doesn't define who you are. Another negative belief that you might have, if I let go of control, my family, my team, my organization, my community will fall apart. So this is like a fear of losing authority, which I think most people know in this day and age that all good leaders are good delegators. And so part of this is a tough one for me because I do like to control certain aspects of how my home is run and how my time is used and how my children behave in public. But there's this fear of losing authority. If you let go of control, everything's going to fall apart. Well, or what could also happen is that it could free you up to do more important tasks, or it could allow the people that you're leading to figure out a little bit of the tough way, because people can't always learn by hearing what they should do. Sometimes they have to experience that. And experiencing the lesson often gives them more confidence to deal with the tough things later in life. So that is a really powerful concept, to know that like it's okay to let your kids or your coworkers or your team go through a tough time. It's okay if they lose a basketball game. It's okay if they have to stick up for themselves sometimes. That gives them confidence that they have their own coping mechanisms and they can see you do that in your own life. And it's giving them more confidence to deal with those things as they get older. So another limiting belief, if I soften too much, they'll walk all over me. So this is like confusing leadership with dominance. It's kind of in line with the other ones. It's selfish for me to focus on mindset instead of their behavior. So this is like, you're not worth it. You're telling yourself you're not worth it, or you're pushing blame on someone else. Well, it's about their behavior, not me. So these are just some of like, as you're really starting to embody the transformation, you're sometimes going to have like these thoughts of backsliding and like, who do I think I am to be leading? Or who do I think I am? Who am I to be leading this masterclass? I'm not a perfect parent. But guess what? That's okay. It's all about imperfect action. And if I've been consuming all of this information and I find a way that works for me, isn't it my job to share it with you? Like, I just feel like that's the conviction of a decent human being, is to share this information with other people, to help other people. What am I getting out of this? Nothing. That's fine. I'm okay with that. So we talk about the limiting beliefs. Leadership, it's not about perfection. It's about consistency, modeling, and repair. So this is where you can highlight your growth and the ripple effects that it has on your family. And I'm talking like generations. You can break generational curses and generational behavior patterns with this method. and um, the other method that I have that I offer in my private coaching. But basically, I have, we're going to get into like I think one final exercise here. Oh no, we don't have, oh yes, one final exercise in just a minute. But I wanted to read one more review for you. And this was for a young couple that also big fans of Dr. Becky Kennedy, the family therapist that I told you about earlier. So I used her wisdom for the repair roadmap, and that's one of the freebies that I'm giving to you today. But also, I'm going to do a repair script exercise for a final exercise. But this other couple that big fans of Dr. Becky Kennedy, read her books, and they also were part of my group challenge last year. So as I was doing like a proof of concept phase before I brought this out to the public, in their review, they said, Heather facilitates opportunities for personal growth in a powerful way by being reminded of opportunities to recall, repair, and heal ourselves and others. We're creating healthy environments. I've had daily opportunities to recall and repair as a father, and it takes effort, humility, and self-forgiveness. Heather helped bridge the gap and connect the dots in a way that makes those human elements easier to overcome on my own journey of self-discipline. So I love that because he said Heather helped bridge the gap. And where we talk about like where you might be currently on Hell Island and where you would like to be, your vision for the future or your ideal life on Dream Island. And so to hear someone say that I helped them to bridge that gap, like it is something where I believe we all have our own answers, but sometimes whether it's talking through, getting a little bit of coaching or guidance, or a little bit of steering in the right direction, like you maybe just need someone to hold up a guidepost for you. And you could do it, but it's just that like little bit of support that you might need to get from point A to point B. So I wanted to share that with you. All right, so who is ready for the final exercise of the master class? And if you're still with me, thank you. We're going on an hour, 40 minutes here. But we've covered all the 3 steps. I'll review them real quickly after the exercise, but let me go to the next slide here. Oh, the repair script. I love this. This is a good one. And it's all about being imperfect, being human. And then what? What do we do with it? Why don't people repair more often? I've thought about this a lot. Well, I feel like it's something that's not taught. I don't remember growing up, I was taught to apologize. And that's probably like what all of our parents were taught to do. And so that's what they taught us to do. Say you're sorry. you know, that kind of thing. So then you say sorry, and the other person's obligated to say, I forgive you. And it's like this exchange of obligation and phrases that we don't really mean. And so we're being taught at a very young age to be fake. That's what it is. And I have a problem with that. And I think it's okay for us to have a problem with those kind of things. Because if you sit back and think about it, why are we being taught to be fake? I'm guilty of it too. You know, my daughter, she's almost 12, and she gets really moody sometimes. Like she is an awesome, awesome kid. Wonderful, like big, full personality. She's so funny, so loving and kind and sweet, but sometimes she gets so moody, and I can get that way too. We all can. Um, but she'll get nasty to her brothers, and I'll make her apologize and say like, well, don't come out of your room until you've settled down and just go chill out. When you're ready to talk it out, you can come out. But she wants to come out even though she's not ready, and she kind of knows it. And she gets frustrated with herself for it, which is okay. That's okay. It's it's like we have this part of our ego that's always battling like the observer part of us that's the real us. And it's just like you come out of a funk and you're like smiling, but then you remember that you were upset. So then you go back to being upset because it doesn't feel right to get happy again so quickly. It's like this funny inner struggle that I witness as a mother sometimes. And I can even see it in myself sometimes. It it's a funny thing when you're aware of those behaviors and that like inner monologue that you're having with yourself. But anyways, you know, I'm just thinking as I go over this exercise that I'm guilty of what we're talking about here too. It was like, telling my kids to apologize when I know they're not ready to apologize. So we don't have to do that. We can allow some space, allow a longer pause, and when we're ready. Hi. Oh, good. You're still here. Okay, good. Thank you. When we're ready, we teach our kids to repair. And again, it's not something that a lot of people are taught as a child or as an adult, but it's a really good thing to know. And if you're looking for connection, deeper connections in your relationship, if you can get this repair thing down, I promise you, you will have deeper connections than ever. I've done this with my kids because I am hard on myself sometimes when I do mess up, and I'll say like, oh my gosh, I just totally overreacted with my kids because I'm actually stressed about XYZ, not even what they did. And so I overreacted, and then I just tell them, so this is what you do. I'm going to teach you what to do in that moment. So think of a time when you lost your cool with a child, colleague, partner, etc. Now imagine repairing it using these steps. So first, you acknowledge it. Let's say my kid freaked out. They didn't like what I was making for dinner. Because I'll just use the example that Dr. Becky Kennedy uses in her TED Talk video. I highly recommend. Look up Dr. Becky Kennedy, TED Talk on repair. It is so good, especially the end. It's very moving. You can acknowledge it. Okay, let's say your kid's complaining about dinner, chicken for the fourth night in a row. Why are we having chicken for the fourth night in a row? Are you kidding me? You're so ungrateful. You have this impulse reaction to like hammer on them for complaining about a meal that you cooked. So, and then there's this exchange, like they run to their room and say, I hate you. And, my 8-year-old, he, he has big emotions, and he'll sometimes say like, he doesn't want to be part of our family. And I'm giggling a little bit because I know he doesn't mean it. He struggles with his own emotions and sorting through them. And so my job is to give him some space because that's the only thing that seems to help. And then he comes out of it. And sometimes he's crying and saying sorry after because he has like, it's like true repentance that he realizes like he doesn't understand why he got so upset about something, but he understands that he's really and truly sorry for it. Um, so what you do first, just acknowledge it. I didn't handle that well. Maybe I had something else on my mind that I was stressed about and I overreacted. So you're owning it too. That was me, not you. That was because of me, not you. I'm sorry. Apologize. Next time, I'll try to take a couple of moments to make sure I'm focused on you and not reacting out of stress from something else. Okay, so you are leading by example. So if you want to take a minute and apply something in your life where maybe you overreacted and it didn't feel good, there was a rupture there. And this could be, I feel like it's usually family, unfortunately, that experiences this because we tend to be a little bit more careful in professional situations or situations with other adults that are not our immediate family. So the people closest to us are generally the people that we experience the most ruptures with. And they're also the people that are most impacted by our example, our own behavior. So using this exercise today as we're doing the masterclass and applying it to one of the situations where maybe you had rupture recently, this can help you to know what to do next time. So as you're doing this, think about which of the 4 steps you tend to skip over. And then we'll come back here in just a minute and wrap things up. But I'm going to shut the video off now for a couple minutes and let you do the exercise. And I'll be back in just a minute and then we'll start to wrap things up here. All right. All right. How's the exercise going? If you need to work on it a little bit more, you can always come back to it. I am going to put up the recording. I usually can get it within an hour or two after the class is done. So I will put that up and you can come back to it later if you didn't get a chance to finish it yet. But I hope that was helpful. I love the repair script. I think it should be taught more often. And so that's why I'm doing my part to get it out there. And hopefully it's helpful to you guys. So good, we're done the final exercise. If you want to share in the chat which of the 4 steps you tend to skip, you may, to me privately or to the group, or not at all. I'm not about forcing anyone to do anything, but I hope that that was helpful for you. I'm sure if you did the exercise, it was very enlightening. It is for me. All right, so let's see. Let's go to the next slide here because we're going to review the 3 guideposts. So step 1 was curiosity, and we used the dichotomy of control and learned to become aware of where to focus our energy. Typically, it is on our own mindset and actions. And I think these work so well together, the curiosity and the control and focus. It's just so helpful. Just brings the awareness all together. Step 2 is commitment, where we're learning to stay calm under pressure, to stay the course when it gets tough and uncomfortable. And it always gets tough and uncomfortable right here. A lot of people quit at step 2. So this is where we learn to practice creating space, the sacred pause, so we can keep making choices that align with our values. And when we make choices that align with our values, it's going to make us feel good. It's going to give us some momentum. We could have positive momentum or negative momentum. And so step 2, the commitment, is all about defeating the limiting beliefs and talking back to them and just putting in the reps that are going to get us where we want to be, to our dream island. Step 3 is command. And that's where we talk about, like, it's not command from a dictatorship point of view. It's command from commanding yourself point of view, leading by example, implementing real self-control, using the art of repair when we need it, because we're not going to have it down perfectly. All right. So how's everyone feeling about all this? I'm sure you're feeling awesome about it. How could you not? I feel very confident that this is helpful. So at the end of my personal story, I kind of alluded to some actionable tools that I wanted to share with you. It's like a little bit of bonus material. So these are just tools to use as you're taking the steps, as you're working through these guideposts that I shared. So just a few things, like a few little helpful hints. So embrace your vulnerability. It's okay to be human, imperfect. That's okay. Share that with people to a point and say, like, you know, I made a mistake. I don't feel good about my choice right now. So you're going to use repair. Just be a little bit vulnerable. It's okay. So reframe your limiting beliefs. You're going to hover over your programming, your old beliefs and programming, and you're going to learn to talk back to them and realize that those beliefs are not your identity. They don't have to be. Mindful, intentional connections. So this is about being present, giving attention where it's needed, focusing your energy where it's needed. All right, this could be with a circumstance that needs your attention. It could be with a child that needs your attention. They're having a hard time. Like, don't make it about you. Don't take it personally. help them through their tough time. So take action despite fear. This kind of goes along with embracing your vulnerability. Like, we are all afraid to take a risk in life, but you are not ever going to grow unless you embrace a certain amount of uncertainty or risk. So take imperfect action. Let go of everything having to be perfect and just do what you know you need to do to get through the challenge and to grow and to learn. Like, challenges come for our training. And the more challenges and obstacles that we can get through, the stronger we're going to be. And then once we become strong, life gives us more responsibility, which is a good thing. It's because we're capable. We're getting trained to take action in spite of fear. And then lastly, I'm big on environment. Like, check your environment constantly. Consider what you're feeding your mind. What situations are you putting yourself in? What kind of people are you surrounding yourself with? What are you doing in your free time? Are you watching horror movies? Are you reading knowledge and wisdom? Are you filling your mind with positivity, negativity? Are you watching the news? Are you enjoying nature? Like, just think about what you're feeding your mind. So those are just some little tools, things to be aware of as you're going through these steps. Okay, so we are almost done. Okay, so at this point, you're probably asking, what's next? Would it be okay if I took a moment to tell you how I serve people? Is that okay with everybody? If you don't answer, because I know some of you are working a little bit in the background and hoping to watch on replay too. So I'm going to take the liberty of just going right ahead and sharing with you how I love to serve other people. Like I said earlier, as we were chatting about kind of my journey in incubating some of these ideas and cultivating some of these challenges and the program that I offer in the private coaching section of the business. This is the freebie section, but I have a private coaching section too. I spent over $100,000 of my own money to basically compile the program to support myself and my children while I was doing all of this research. And what I like to do is just encourage people that they can get through the lasting transformation and in turn help other people to do it too, which I think is so powerful. But you know, I know that I'm blessed with a lot of options and resources that other people might not have. So I've made some risks that a lot of other people maybe are not willing to make, and that's okay. But like I've said multiple times already today, like, any growth involves a certain amount of risk. So that may be in the form of investing time, energy, resources, allowing uncertainty to come in, and getting somewhat uncomfortable. Um, yeah, so I'll get to the call in a minute here, but yeah, I wanted to just say, like, if you're willing to open your mind and heart, allowing space to kind of see if there might be anywhere where you might want to change and transform. I'd love to talk with you more about the shortcut that I've developed. So this masterclass is kind of like a bonus where it's a freebie that I offer to people. Like, I put this together because these are some steps that have really helped me to transform my life as a parent and also like in the community because I'm out and about with my kids a lot. They're involved in sports, and I'm in the presence of a lot of other parents and teachers and leaders. And it's important to me to hold myself accountable to what I've learned and also what I'm teaching other people to do. So, and a little bit of that is like this shortcut that I'm sharing with you. Aside from that, there's the whole bigger program that I offer. But a lot of the people that I have been blessed to serve are experiencing new awareness, new perceptions. They're rewriting their past, as I kind of hinted at before. So it's like new, bringing healing to their families. And it does go deeper than what standard medication can treat. And again, I would never say like, don't go to therapy or don't take your medication. I'm not a doctor and I'm not authorized to tell you what to do as far as all that goes. But I can only tell you what has worked for me and what has worked for a lot of other people is just having the support to actually sit with the tough feelings and sit with the tough emotions and process them from a place of clarity and a place of compassion too. And having that open mind and realizing like, I am not all of these negative beliefs. I am the observer of these beliefs. And I also have the power to change the beliefs that are not helping me in life. So having like the tools and the strategies that haven't been taught to you otherwise, I think like a part of us knows some of these things that I've taught you today, like the steps to repair. Once you're taught it, they all kind of make sense. But sometimes we just need a little bit of guidance to like, okay, well, first you acknowledge what happened and how it made the other person feel. Then you own it. So it's not about them, it's about you. And then you say sorry, and then you make a plan to move forward. It's like, some of these things are kind of logical and you feel like they should be intuitive, but they're not actually taught to us. And if we don't have people in our lives that are following these steps to show us, we come into our adult life still not knowing how to handle these things. So part of what I love to do is share this with other people, whoever wants to listen. I hope a lot of you get this message. So if this sounds like something that you want for yourself, your family, your most important relationships, if you think this would be helpful, just throw a yes in the chat or send me a message and I can tell you a little bit more about it. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to actually close out of this for a quick moment and come into my link here. I'm going to copy a link into the chat in a minute. I just have to get this back onto my big screen. All right, I'm going to copy this into the chat. This is my calendar link. Okay, there we go. I want to make sure it made it in there. And this is to schedule a free phone call with me. So during the call, you can find out some more details about my program, which follows a similar path as we went on today. So it's a similar journey, but it is very customized according to what you need. And I love it because it starts with just like having that playful curiosity or awareness. And then we just work through the commitment and all the levels of commitment and all the obstacles that you come up against in the commitment. This class is geared specifically towards leadership and parents, but there's so much more to it. This is not all encompassing, but it's going to give you a good basic blueprint of what I offer in the bigger program. And then like the command, I love the last step, which is command. And we have command over ourselves at that point. And we're seeing the value of lasting transformation and the value of leading by example, because example is so powerful. You literally have to say nothing and you're just showing by how you live your life. And that's the best way to lead, I think. So at this point, I like to ask the question, like, what is the value of lasting transformation within your family, within your community, within your organization? What is the value of lasting transformation that can be carried on through the next generation too? I feel like that's something you can't even really put a cap on. So if you want to schedule the call, you can use the link that I put in the chat. And during the call, basically what we'll talk about is your personal struggles. And I know when people registered for this class, like different people wrote different things as their challenges. And so it's very customized. But we talk about a strategy and a customized roadmap created specific to your ideal vision and goals, and also addressing your hell island. And so if you click on the link in the chat, just schedule a time. Before we go on the call, I'll send you a couple questions, but also I want you to write down all of your questions so we can make the most of our time together. So if you want to ask, like, how long does the program last? Who's it for? How much does it cost? If you have any thoughts on like what kind of support you need or a certain pace that you want to go, anything you can think of, write it down and I'll answer all of your questions. So like I said, so you can get the most value out of our time together. And before I let you go, I did give you a glimpse of the last slide here, which is just to talk about reviewing the freebies, the final slide. And I need to give you your code word, which is Peacemaker. It's at the bottom slide there. So your attendance bonuses for today, as we discussed earlier, the Zen Parent Handbook, Daily Habits for Calm, Control, and Connection, and the Repair Roadmap from Conflict to Connection. So we talked about those a little bit earlier in the class. So on top of that, I'm adding in some program bonuses for anyone who is invited into my program following their strategy call. So click on the link and book the call. And then if we talk and you decide, well, if we both decide that we are going to work together, that my strategy matches up with what you need or what you're looking for, then I have some additional bonuses, which are, I put in here, navigating relationships after transformation. So this is a mini workshop and guide. And you might wonder, like, why do I need to know how to navigate relationships after transformation? Well, this is a future problem that you might have that I ran into. And I talk a lot about in my program, like cleansing your environment. But as you are changing your perceptions, you're going to, if I can say this in the most frank and honest way possible, you're going to be disgusted by certain people in your life. And that's, I'm sorry, but that is what happens. There are going to be people in your life that you will start to realize affect you negatively, that they're just maybe negative people, or they're just always judging other people, or they're just very stuck in a victim mentality, which is not helpful for anybody. It's not helpful for them. It's not helpful for the people in their lives. So that is why I put together a mini workshop and guide for you. If you go through the full program, you will experience this. And it's not anything to be afraid of. It's actually awesome when you start to cleanse your environment and like, there's no guilt. You maybe would feel sorry for ending a relationship, but it's like, oh, such a relief after, I promise. So this just helps you, I'll read it. It's discussion on how growth may shift dynamics with partner, family, friends, setting healthy boundaries. So a lot of these people are just in our lives. We can't just cut them out of our lives. So how do we just learn to set boundaries with them? Managing discomfort, having empowering conversations. So bonus reflection prompts for self-awareness. So that is the first program bonus if you're invited into the program after the call. The next one is I love to do visualizations, so guided visualization series. It's a small group bonus. So it's a live visualization call with recording available if you miss it. But the themes could include like a future self visualization, meet the person you're becoming, a repair and reconnect visualization to heal a difficult relationship, and then releasing leadership guilt visualization, and then a visualization for resilience during emotional storms. So those are just like some examples of what you could choose. So I only take on up to 3 new clients at a time because the program is very customized and exclusive for each new member, and it does take up a lot of my time on the back end. So I do have room for 3 new clients, and once those spots are gone, they're gone. So I know that this is the point where like the masterclass is coming to an end, and hopefully you've learned some things, you've done some exercises. And I just want to acknowledge you for spending some time with me here today. And if you start to doubt yourself or wonder what will happen if your spouse doesn't support you, what will happen if you admit you need help, you might start to tell yourself you're not good at committing to changes or programs, you don't have time to invest in yourself or your family. But these are like your limiting beliefs, your old way of thinking. So I'm hoping that now you know better, and you know like that there's no better investment than you can make for your family and for yourself. So if you want to talk more about the strategy, click on the link in the chat. You'll go to a calendar. You can select a spot for your free call. All right. And then we just talk about your current situation, vision for the future, goals, anticipated obstacles, and find out if and how I can support and serve you. All right, so wrapping it up here, thank you again for your time and the investment that you made in your families today. If you had any breakthroughs, I'd love to hear like what part of this you loved, if there was a part you didn't love or was very hard for you to hear. Let's talk about that. You can put it in the chat or send me a message, whatever you want. And I'll look forward to chatting more. I'm going to do this class every month. I'm going to just put it out there. I'll put up the recording. It might be like a tiny bit different from month to month, but it's going to be basically the same content. So if you want like a monthly review, that might be a little bit different here and there. Come to every class. I don't care. That's great. They're all free and available to anyone that wants them. Tell a friend about them. However you want to use this, it is for you to use. So put the code word peacemaker either in the chat, or you can put it in a message to me, and I will send you the Zen Parent Handbook and the Repair Roadmap. Book your call, and we'll talk about a strategy for whatever you're going through. And you can get the program bonuses, the navigating relationships after transformation, and the guided visualization series to choose from. And that is it for now. We're going to wrap up. We've been on 2¼ hours now. It is 12:45 where I am sitting. And I hope you all have a blessed day. And it was a privilege to be able to come on here and serve you with this wisdom that I've mostly borrowed from other people and just kind of compiled in my own unique way. So I hope that was helpful for you all. And I will talk to you soon. Hope to see you on the next one. All right. Bye.